There is the future, Miss King. The new worlds of space, hanging like ripe plums in the sky, waiting for the first men who have the courage to snatch them. Oh dear me. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you there. The 2008 Peugeot 207. Is it French and flimsy? Or is it fun to drive? Should you care? Let's find out. 207, on y va!
Happening among us. It's not as if we don't have to deal with our shortcomings. It's not as if we don't have to wipe away the tears. From time to time we wouldn't lie. And here we are, we'll never be the same. And on the screens of our lives flash words of good songs that we've not yet sung. We're not worried about the future and we're not guilty about the past. We're pressing on together.
So, my friend Amanda offered me to review her 2008 Peugeot 207 1.4 Sport. So here we are in Surrey, once again, accompanied by my intrepid cameraman, Mr. Nick Franks. And say thank you to Amanda, of course, for her suggestion. Thanks, Amanda, for Manda. So this is going to be a bit of an unusual review, and that this is by far the oldest car I've reviewed. It's 11 years old at this point, and it's got one or two issues, shall we say. We've got warning lights, we've got interesting French electronics, we've got loss of power, we've got moments which maybe clench your teeth and see if you're actually going to survive when the brakes aren't very good. This is going to be fun. So come along and join us for the ride. So first of all, what can I tell you about the Peugeot 207? So it was first launched in 2006, facelifted in 2009, and discontinued in 2012 in favour of the 208. So the engines available in the Peugeot 207 were a 1.4 litre with either 75, 90 or later 95 horsepower, a 1.6 with 110 horsepower, none of which are turbocharged, and then a couple of 1.6 turbos, a 150 horsepower in the GT, and then 171 horsepower in the GTI. There are also some diesels, but of course we don't talk about those. So this car is called the 207 1.4 Sport. I think it's got about 90 horsepower. To be honest, it feels like it's got about 50. The car needs a service, it needs an oil change, it needs new spark plugs, and it just lacks any sort of meaningful power. Overtaking manoeuvres have to be planned with a calendar rather than a stopwatch. And the whole thing just feels like you're unsure as to whether or not you're going to make it to the end of your journey, unless you have a pace of a snail, of course. Another thing I don't like about this car is the brakes, or rather the lack of brakes. As I've said before, you kind of got to clench your teeth and see if it actually is going to stop or not. All the other cars I've reviewed, to be fair, have been no more than about 4 or 5 years old, so you kind of expect them to be a bit better. But this, the brakes are as vague and sort of mushy as a speech about Brexit. So we've already established this car's not particularly fast, the brakes aren't especially good, and it's not the nicest thing to drive. Peugeot generally, historically, have been really good at small cars. The 205 was a really good car, albeit with very flimsy build quality and a terrible gear change. The 206 was very popular, and of course it's built in Britain. I don't know if that makes you feel any better or not, but it was built at Coventry. Again, horrible gear change and iffy build quality, but quite nice to drive. This, it's still got iffy build quality and a horrible gear change, but I don't even think it's that nice to drive. The steering, for some reason, feels really over-assisted. If you compare this, for example, with my wife's MG3, which is a little bit newer, but nevertheless has hydraulic power steering. Like, I think this has hydraulic power steering, I can't tell. The communication between the driver and the wheels is so much better. The feedback through the steering is so nice, like, you know, on Peugeot's old used to be. This just feels all kind of vague. It's just horrible. So in terms of the ride, French cars generally are renowned for having quite good rides because there are plenty of roads in France which have very poor services. This car, I know it's done 56,000 miles and I know it's over 10 years old, but the ride just feels a bit kind of crashy and average. It's not terrible, but it's not as good as I think it could have been. So in terms of the trim levels that were initially available in the 207, this is quite an early car. This is a 2008. There was Urban, which just meant poverty spec, S, SE, Sport, which just got you some fancy chrome rings around the fog lights as far as I can see. Nothing sporty about that. And the GT, which was properly sporty. There's not much in the way of equipment in here, but it's okay, I suppose. There is this kind of large central screen which every time that we turn the car on, it tells us that the anti-pollution filter's not working. I suppose that's nice. Tells me my fuel economy. I'm not sure what economy I'm going to get in this, maybe 35, 40. It's nothing special really. The plastics of the dashboard feel a little bit better than other Peugeots I've driven, but it's not great by modern standards anyway. The whole thing just feels a little bit lightweight and a little bit cheap. Then again, I don't think this car is expensive in the second-hand market, so what can you expect? A lot of people, I think, bought this car because they'd had maybe a 205, a 206, maybe a 106, and they wanted to upgrade to something a bit nicer. And to be honest, it doesn't feel as lightweight as one of those, and it's slightly better quality. But my gosh, the sort of cars you could buy for the money that one of these is worth now. Anything, I don't know, a Ford Fiesta, maybe a Vauxhall Corsa, if you wanted something that's cheap. Volkswagen Polo, Seat Ibiza, Skoda Fabia, Kia Rio, Hyundai i20. Any of those are better than this. Absolutely any of them. I don't know why you buy this car over just any number of far more talented and more reliable rivals. For some reason, the first 15 minutes of this car were a bit uncertain when we picked it up this morning. The engine was just running really badly. Amanda, please change the oil in the spark plugs, please. Make sure you just a public service it out to everybody. Please make sure you service your car regularly. So, in terms of performance, well, I've said it's not a fast car. I reckon if I really pushed it, bearing in mind it's running not very well, we might get 0 to 60 in 15 seconds. If I was on the autoroute and I had my beret on and I'd had some salami for my lunch, I could probably get 81 miles an hour out of it, which is the speed limit on the autoroute, but I certainly wouldn't want to go any faster in this.
What, the speed limit's 81 miles per hour?
On the autoroute, yes it is.
81?
81.
81?
81.
Only the French would make their maximum speed limit 81 miles.
It's 130 kph, that's why.
Okay.
In terms of visibility, that's one thing this car is really quite good at. There's a lot of light in the cabin. Seeing out of the front and the back is really easy. The bonnet does slope away quite a lot, so it might be a little bit difficult to park. But overall, in comparison with modern cars, which have much less glass area than this, this is quite a nice car, I suppose, driving in the city, if you can live with this awful gearbox. Wow. Well, Mr. Franks and I are both still alive, so that's one thing. The less said about the driving experience of this car, the better. Let's focus on something else. How about the boot size? At 270 litres, this boot is pretty average for this type of car. Oh, thanks, Amanda. Thamanda. Right, apart from this boot being full of sand, we'll just ignore that. If we look under here, we can see that there should be a space of a spare wheel in there. I think it's underneath the car actually. It's 270 litres, which for the type of car in its age isn't too bad, but there's nothing special about this boot. There's no 12-volt socket, there's no tie-down points particularly. It's just a sort of average shape. Yeah, that's it really. Right, well, let's try getting in the back. Oh my gosh! Oof. Oh my god! Okay, right. There's not much space in here. My seat is in my driving position. I'm 5'11". I've got really no space at all. My head's against the roof. Got no knee room. Let's just say this car is on the small side. So the fixtures and fittings in here, they don't feel like they're very nice quality, particularly these door handles. There is Isofix in here, but I can't even see the anchors, so we're not going to bother with those. I tried to fold the rear seats down and they don't want to fold, so I can't show you that. Yeah, let's just try going in the front, shall we? Just one moment. Oh my god! Ah. Oh. 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 That's so much better. Right. Okay. The glove box. Right. Yes. Oh dear. Oh dear me. You can't get any secret mission documents in there. Persia, in their infinite wisdom, they have decided to put the fuse box on the passenger side of the car, and so you can't fit anything in this glove box at all. Thanks, Peugeot. Peugeot decided not to move the fuse box and make available this kind of right-hand drive. But maybe let's see some positive things about this, shall we? Oh dear. Okay, so the window switches are held down by a cable tie. That doesn't really say much for French quality, does it? I mean, there must be something nice we can talk about in this interior. Oh yeah, well, the seat and the steering wheel, they do adjust reasonably well. It's got some nice silver trim. No, that's about it. So I suppose the ergonomics are reasonable, but these switches feel so cheap and horrible. The ones on this radio are really fiddly. The instruments look quite cheap and nasty. These stalks, I mean, they feel like they're going to fall off at any moment. Interior quality of the Volkswagen Polo? No. So, like in many older French cars, there's a control here for the stereo by the steering wheel, which is nice and safe, I suppose. The hazard light switch is in a good place, not like on an MG3. And this car does have air conditioning, although if it works or not, I don't really know. So then, what do I think of the Peugeot 207? Well, when it was launched, it was kind of an average sort of car. Bit disappointing maybe from the makers of some of the best small cars in the world. And these days, thanks to reliability, quality issues, and the strength of the competition that you can buy a car of this price for, I don't really think it's worth considering at all. Thank you, Amanda, for lending us this car, but I think I'll just avoid it in the future. That's okay. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. This unit is on the survival course at present. I will release you. 60 seconds later, they will come after you. Their objective... Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. We really hope you enjoyed it. My name's Joseph Lloyd. I'm an independent vehicle consultant. If you wish me to source a car for you, then please visit my website, which is www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. I also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you.